Okay, let's look again. We want to remember how to solve a percent problem. Remember we said to solve a percent problem we need to do three things. We need to first identify the percent, the base, and the amount, and that's what we just worked on, identifying the percent, the base, and the amount. Once we've identified these three, the percent, the base, and the amount, then we're going to use this percent formula to set up the proportion. Remember, the formula is amount over base equals percent over 100, and if you want, you can use the abbreviations A over B equals percent over 100, if that's easier to remember. But remember, A represents the amount, B is the base, the percent over 100, or you could use P. Okay, so we can learn this formula, amount over base equals a percent over 100. Once we have the proportion set up, then what we want to do is solve the proportion. Once we have the proportion set up, we want to solve the proportion for the unknown. That's how we solve problems. So now, let's look at some examples on these. Okay, first example we want to look at is 75% of 36 is what number? I want to find the number that 75% of 36 is. Okay, so what I need to do is I have to identify my percent, my base, and my amount, and that's what we just worked with. Okay, we want to identify the percent, the base, and the amount. And this one, the percent is going to be 75, that's right. 75 is going to be our percent. The base is what we're taking the percent of, and we're taking 75% of 36. So the base must be 36, which means the amount must be our unknown. The amount must be our unknown. Now remember, the percent form proportion was amount over base equals the percent over 100. So that means we're going to, in our proportion, the 100 is standard, that's in every single one of the problems. So we're going to put the amount, which was X, over the base, which is 36, is equal to the percent, which is 75, over 100. Now that we do this, now what we want to do is solve this proportion. So to remember how to solve a proportion, remember to solve a proportion, what we want to do is cross multiply. We want to multiply the extremes and multiply the means and set them equal to each other. So when we multiply X times 100 and multiply 36 times 75. Now this gives us 100X is equal to 36 times 75. Find 36 times 75. And we get 2,700, 2,700. Now to find the unknown X, we need to divide both sides by 100. Now divide 2,700 by 100, and X turns out to be 27. So the amount is 27. That's what we were looking for. 75% of 36 is what number? The answer is 27. Okay, our second example says I want 148% of what number is 88.8. Now 148% means that we're more than 100%. So that means our answer is going to be very large. This is going to be fairly small because we want 148% of what number? That means I'm over this. This is over the amount that we're looking for. Now we need to identify our percent, our base, and our amount. We want to do this on any time we have a percent problem. We want to always identify our percent, our base, and our amount. So on this, again, our percent's fairly obvious. It's going to be 148. Now what the base is what we're taking the percent of. We're taking 148% of what number? That means what it indicates. This is going to be our unknown X. So that means our base is X. And our amount then must be 88.8. Okay, now we want to set this up in our proportion. Amount over base is equal to the percent over 100. So when we set it up, the 100 goes here. We have the amount, which is 88.8. We have the base, which is our unknown x, and our percent, which is 148. And then remember, we got our proportion by filling in the unknowns that we've already identified. Okay, we filled in the unknowns that we already identified. This is something you need to know. We need to know this. Okay, now, to solve a proportion, we cross multiply, so we multiplied 88.8 times 100 is equal to 148 times x. Remember, we cross multiply. That's how you solve a proportion. Now, 88.8 times 100, it gives you, we can do this on our calculator, and we get 8,880 is equal to 148x. To solve for x, we want to divide both sides by 148. And x is going to turn out to be whatever you get when you divide 8,880 by 148. And we end up with 60. So the base is, or our unknown, is 60. That's what we were looking for. Okay. Identify the percent, the base, and the amount. Fill in the formula that you need to memorize. This is something you need to know. Do the arithmetic, and then we'll come up with our final answer. Okay, let's look at our third example. Our third example is I want to know if 0.2128 is what percent of 30.4. 0.2128 is what percent of 30.4. So what we're going to have to do again, we identify our percent, our base, and our amount. We want to identify our percent, our base, and our amount. The percent, of course, looks like what we're looking for because it says x is our percent, so it looks like what percent. So our x is our percent this time. What is the percent being taken of? It says what percent of 30.4. So that means the base is 30.4, which leaves 0.2128 as our amount. Okay. 0.2128 is what percent of 30.4. Our unknown must be the percent. We're taking the percent of 30.4, so 30.4 is our base. And that leaves 0.2128 as our amount. Now let's fill in the formula. Amount over base equals the percent over 100 gives us 0.2128 divided by 30.4 is equivalent to the percent, which was our unknown, over 0.212 over 100. That's always 100, isn't it? Over 100. Now that we have our proportion set up, we can solve the proportion by cross multiplying. So we get 0.2128 times 100 is equal to 30.4 times x. Now we need to multiply 0.2128 by 100 and we get 21.28 is equal to 30.4x. To solve for the unknown, we divide by the number that's with it. So we divide both sides by 30.4, and we end up with, let's see, that gives us 21.28 divided by 30.4 comes out as 0.7 is equal to x. That says our percent that we're looking for is 0.7%. Remember, we don't change this because our value was the percent we were looking for. So that means 0.7% gives us the percent we're looking for. .2128 is what percent of 30.4? It's 0.7%. Whatever we get is the percent we were looking for.